Hello, it is Monday night or Tuesday morning, and welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. After a hectic footballing weekend and a hectic Monday, we are ready to take you through the football in action across Serie A and the Premier League. As always, my name is Rory, and I'm joined by my very good friend
Adam. Hey Rory, a fantastic day of footballing news. I think we were kind of rejoicing at Man City's news that came out this morning, but then
Ooh.
we were brought down to worlds in terms of learning about Leeds United and potentially Southampton sacking their managers. So yes, we've got that plus the famous Derby della Madonnina even, and Inter confirming a fantastic result against AC Milan. Pioli looks in trouble, doesn't he, mate?
There was a lot of depressing scenes across this weekend. I think the Milan performance tops it off. That first half from Milan was absolutely woeful. The first thing I did was I walked into class. I've got like an advanced group of adults, and one of them is a Milan fan. And I was like, "Hey, Jojo, how was your weekend?" And he just looked at me. He was like, "Next question." I was like, "Oh," he just like did not want to talk about it. I was like, "Okay, so apart from the football, how was your weekend?" It was terrible. Okay, good.
Okay.
Right, moving on. There was definitely like a split in the classroom between like the smiling faces and the pissed off faces. But I think they had a right to be annoyed. We'll get onto it, but
Yeah.
Milan were terrible.
Yes.
We do also need to talk Premier League. As you said, it's kind of how do they say goodbye in America? Goodbye in American to Jesse Marsh. We may be seeing the last of Nathan Jones as he sets his career on fire. But on the pitch, we do actually have Sean Dyche is back.
Yeah.
We called it on the pod. I said the wrong minute. I said the third minute, but I did say Tarkovsky header. And we have what else? Pep Guardiola overthinking things, overthinking to the point of damaging himself again as they continue their goalless streak at
Yes.
the Armitage Shanks Arena in North London. But I think that's everything. Adam, how was your weekend?
It was good, thank you. Saw Wickham win 3-0
Oof.
comprehensively over Port Vale, which was beautiful to
Oh,
see.
good lads. Good
Yes,
lads.
love it,
Local
love it,
rivals of
especially
Crewe.
for you,
I'll
especially
take
for
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll take it in Burslem, surely. But yes, otherwise, good family trip in Cadbury World. So yes, I'm feeling a few stone heavier since that journey. But yes,
Nice. I did see the
never mind.
Instagram pictures, man. Was that the one in
Yes,
Birmingham? I think I went there when I
it
was a
is.
kid.
Yes,
That's
the one in
banging
the
in there,
famous
you know.
Bourneville. Yes, lots of
Yeah.
chocolate brought home with me. So
Oh,
yes,
nice.
I'm gonna have to work it off on Wednesday when I play football. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, good weekend.
Nice.
How about yours?
Yeah, it was good. Beautiful weather in Milan, so I took a walk around. Did a couple of art galleries yesterday. If you're
Nice.
ever in Milan and you happen to be the first, it happens to be the first weekend of the month. A lot of art galleries are free, so as long as you don't mind queuing, you can just go in. So we went to a really cool photography exhibition. It was really nice, and walked around the city. I just love this city in the sun. It's really, really beautiful.
Mm.
A little bit cold, but it was beautiful. But guys, we are going to go to a very, very quick break. And on the other side, we are going to be talking all things Serie A. I'm stalling to find the transition. Here we are. Ciao. Come stai? It's time for Serie A. And of course, there's only one place to start, and it is the fact that Milan is in fact black and blue. If you had any doubts before, there are no doubts anymore. Adam, what did you make of this performance? We kind of alluded to Milan. Should we
Mm.
look at Milan, then we'll look at Inter?
Yes, why not? Why not? So Milan, you have to say Pioli did try and shake it up. He gave it a go by changing the formation. Um, Obviously,
Mm.
it didn't seem like the players were well drilled on that formation because he played a 3-5-2, very much reliant on obviously the wingers or wing backs to kind of contribute here. And not at any point did it feel like it was going that way, especially when you consider they're very used to playing one touch football, not being direct with the ball. And the likes of Origi and Giroud really didn't have much to work on.
Mm.
And that said, obviously, every time in that first half, Milan got the ball, they kind of gave it directly back to Inter players who were pretty much camped in their own half. So it was very difficult for, I suppose, Milan to do anything in that circumstance. I didn't think Pioli got the personnel right. Krunic, for example, I didn't understand that. And when he did make the substitution, I think it was on the 51st minute, bringing off Origi and Calabria off, there seemed to be a little bit more balance to the play. But by that point, they'd already lost. Having said that, Milan did have some chances, right? Free kicks mainly. But even then, they weren't even threatening, despite the fact that they were in the best place possible. If someone would have taken it with a bit more intent, right? Giroud's effort went wide. I think it was Tonali with the other one. Just terrible day for Milan overall. I mean, it's proven by the XG in the first half, 0, because there was 0 chances for them. And Tatarusanu was the best player, ironically. You know, he was slated in the last pods, and I've got a fantastic stat for you, Rory. He's faced 16 XG shots against him this season, conceded 22 goals in the process. So he is only worse in differential against Rio Patrizio. His save percentage is also the 3rd worst in the league. Despite this, though, obviously best player on the pitch for Milan by miles, because had he not saved a lot of the opportunities from Inter, in particular that kind of half chance that Martinez had, it could have been worse. And, you know, even the one that got ruled off for offside was very tight. It has to be said. I think on another day that gets given. But Rory, your thoughts on Milan?
Yeah, I thought, like, from the beginning, as you said, the lineup was really strange. You could see what the game plan was: counter-attack, get Inter on the break, but then you leave Leao on the pitch, you leave Leao on the bench, your best ball carrier and best threat on the break. I found that really, really odd from Pioli. You're right, the midfield 3 was really strange. I think Tonali can't do it all on his own, but Messias, I don't see him as a central midfielder. I think he's been better in other positions further up the pitch as that kind of winger cutting inside that attacking threat. I feel like having him in the central midfield really didn't work. I know what Pioli is trying to do, but I think when you're coming into a big game, trying to implement a new system in that big game, it's only going to go one way. Even if what you've been doing hasn't necessarily worked, I think it's safer to stick with what you know, but try to do it better than to try and go, right, let's just tear it all up for our biggest game of the season. I think you could just see that they were stuck between 2 stools, and it just didn't work. I think Krunic, I've never really been impressed by. I think he was just kind of bypassed in this match completely. And I think even with so you look at the attacking lineup, Origi and Giroud up front. Okay, Origi is the quicker of the 2, I suppose, but he's not exactly like lightning quick. I think you need for those 2 to have. They're both also the strikers that need a lot of chances. I think they're not really the type of striker to have one chance and score. Maybe Giroud more than Origi, but I think they both need you to be creating lots of chances. And Milan were creating nothing. I think it was just it was an experiment that did not work for Pioli. On the wing backs, Theo Hernandez was not his typical self. He absolutely shrank in this game. Usually he's the one driving the aggressiveness, getting in everyone's face, bringing everyone up with him by him being such a wanker, and he wasn't doing that. And you could just see, I think there was a clip of Barella doing keepy uppies, where he took the ball down on his shoulder, kind of flicked it, kept kicking it, and Teo's behind him, and you'd expect Teo to just clean him out, because that's usually what he does, and he's just chasing him. There wasn't that. It didn't seem like there was that intensivity from any of the players, really. But the wing backs offered nothing. But then on that same hand, we have to say that was largely because Inter were the much better team. But they didn't have to be that good, but they were still good. I think they could have been more clinical, as you said. It should have been by more goals. 1-0 definitely flatters Milan more than it does Inter, I think. And I think Inter still need to get better at creating clear-cut chances. They need to get better at getting those, because I think, Tatarusanu made some big saves, but if you look at the balance of play and how much Inter were in Milan's half, they should have been making him work more. I
Yeah,
think.
definitely.
So I think when they come up against teams that are in better form and are like, your Napolis, etc.,
Yeah,
you need to be more clinical. So it's still something that needs to be worked on for Inter. But again, that being said, Martinez post World Cup is unbelievable.
Oh.
He has been like at the World Cup, we were all kind of like laughing and being like, oh man, this has not been his tournament. He's going to come back and be a broken man. He had his big moments in that tournament, scoring the winning penalty in the semi-final, right? I think he definitely, and he rightly did, he earned that World Cup medal. You know what I mean? He played every game, almost played every minute. I think he's come back and it's just given him this huge boost. I think all the Argentinian players that have come back have been fantastic since they came back. Like Martinez at United has been unbelievable. McAllister at Brighton, and you can just keep going. And I think it's just great to see Martinez doing so well. Really well taken header. Should have had a second, as you said, with the offside. But who, apart from Martinez, you can talk about Martinez as well, I suppose. But who impressed you from Inter the most?
Oh, I mean, Martinez, you have to give him a shout. I thought Milan Skriniar had a very good game. I thought he was, given the circumstances, right? And I think there's a bit of context to give that before the match, he gave an interview to the Kurva Nord in their kind of publication because he felt it was his due. And it was interesting reading about he didn't get booed when his name got announced. And I think that obviously that confidence that Inzaghi instilled with him as well helped him in this match. And you could see he just seemed like all the stresses of the previous matches have gone by the wayside. He seemed that Milan Skriniar that we've been used to seeing. So I thought that was fantastic because if there was going to be a weak point, potentially Milan could have got at him, but they didn't. And it really didn't matter. The other one I want to call out is Çalhanoğlu, who I thought was very good. Really teased Milan with some of the set plays. I thought he was superb in that midfield marshalling as well, because I think, the likes of Tonali were kicking out a few times, trying to maybe agitate the other players. But it really didn't bite on this occasion. I think only Mkhitaryan got a yellow card, really.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I would say that I was probably frustrated at from an Inter perspective was the performance of Barella, because we know he can do amazing things, right? But I thought he had a very hot and cold game. There's a few times where he was dilly-dallying with the ball, almost gave it away about twice. There was one time where on the halfway line, Giroud kind of clamps him down and then almost breaks away from that opportunity. There was another one in the second half where he gave it away, and I think it needed a tackle from the likes of Skriniar to stop it. And I think it was one of those instances that basically meant that it was a free kick on the edge of the area, which Giroud then hit over. So from that point of view, I think he was frustrating. I was shouting certainly a few times for Inzaghi to take him off because he was frustrating me. But yeah, I think it was such a great performance from Inter. I mean, it kind of instills a bit more confidence. I don't know whether you feel the same way, but it almost feels like if Inter can perform like that, they certainly have second place sewn up in the bag. I know it's probably too early to say because they'll fuck it up next weekend, but this is just the Inter way, right?
Well, of all the teams in the top six, they've lost the most games. So, it's very much feast or famine for Inter. They've won 14, drawn 1, and lost 6. So, if they don't win, they lose. So I think it's still very much Pazza Inter, and it's definitely in their hands, if you know what I mean. But I think this puts them up to second, 43 points, still 13 points behind Napoli. But
I know.
It's insane every time you look at it. But they're now, that puts them 5 points safely into the top 4 ahead of Atalanta, who of course dropped points this weekend. So I think Inter, that is such a huge win. Milan down in 6th now, below Atalanta on 38 points as well. They're lucky that there's an 8-point gap between them and Torino. They're very, very lucky, because I can't see them starting to pick up points anytime soon, or not on a consistent basis. I think they might get an odd win here and odd win there, but I can't see them being consistent. And I think that 8-point gap will save them from dropping out. Because if that were smaller, Torino were starting to put things together and could be catching them up. I just think that's a little bit too far. But Inter, huge win for them. I think Onana's now played Milan twice, not conceded in either of them. I I think he didn't even have to wash his kit after the match yesterday. I think he can wear it again next weekend. He watched the entire game.
The only time he got it dirty was in the last few minutes where he decided to jump down with the ball and just cover it. I think that's the only time he got it wet or dirty in that sense.
And that was when I think it was De Vrij who turned around and shouted at him, "Get down!"
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we need to waste time. Like, yeah, he had the best seat in the house. But what it did make me watching it, I was like, it's been a while since I've been to a Milan derby, and unsurprisingly, the last couple of years it's got harder and harder to get tickets because both teams are doing well again. When I got here, neither team were doing well, and the tickets were very easy to get. But it did make me miss going to the stadium. It did make me miss the Milan derbies. The atmosphere looked incredible. The choreographies were amazing. Inter's choreography was just insane. I was kind of debating this with the missus. I was like, this is the biggest game in Italy, I think.
Yeah.
This is like the one that most people from around the world would be like, oh, I'm going to watch the Milan derby. I think more than Inter Juve, more than like Juve Napoli, whatever, it'd be like, I'm going to watch the Milan derby. And it just felt like a big occasion, even though Milan weren't where they have been. But yeah, great for Inzaghi. I think his record against Milan is kind of, well, it's better now. I don't think it was outstanding before this. And for Pioli, he is quite lucky there's no other outstanding candidates at the minute, because I think otherwise Milan would be pulling the trigger. But I think we're going to see him stay until the end of the season at least. I think as long as they are in the European places, he stays in the job, I think. If that 8-point gap is overturned, then he's definitely out of a job, I think. But I also think, just very quickly before we move on, is there a thing with Leao now? It feels like it's become a thing. And there's a lot of clubs around the world who have been sniffing, mainly Chelsea, because they're sniffing at everything.
Of course they are.
Yeah. I've heard Chelsea have been linked. But Leao, it feels like there's a thing now. And as he came off the pitch yesterday, now I know like the camera's focused on him, he's going to look pissed off because he's just lost the game. But I couldn't help but feel there's a dynamic going there now. And Pioli's maybe picked a fight with the wrong person. What do you think?
I do feel like, based on yesterday, I don't think he's the same Leao that we've been used to seeing for the last sort of 18 months. Like, there's something that's definitely changed. I can't really put what it is that's suddenly changed this kind of performance, because we've seen this drop off since October, where he's been very inconsistent, hot and cold. And then it's just been poor to the point that it kind of justifies Pioli dropping him. But then at the same time, you kind of go, he's the only man that's going to change this team in terms of run off the likes of Giroud's flick-ons or, create that one opportunity that makes the difference in the match. And you could see by his frustration, he took it out on, I want to say,
he got booked.
He did some stupid fouls. And it's not looking pretty. If I was one of those clubs now, I'd be kind of going, what's this hype all about? Like, this guy just doesn't show it at the moment, and justifiably so. I think he could probably benefit from someone else around him right now, to be fair. I think it just feels like Pioli's kind of name is going to be out of the door at Milan. And unfortunately, that could be for the benefit of Leao as well. But then Milan really need the cash, don't they? It just looks so evident that he's going to be sold. It's just going to be a question of who's going to stump it up. Could it be PSG? I don't know, but
PSG is a very good shout, I think. But also, I think just Leao, even on a bad day, he's that player that worries defenders and gives the team someone to think about.
Exactly.
Like, even if he's not touched the ball for 70 minutes, every defender on that side is going, just keep an eye on him. Exactly. So you just give it. Whereas yesterday, Inter were just like, okay, Giroud's there, Origi's there, cool, right.
Yeah.
Sweet, let's just play the ball. They didn't have anything to worry about. And I think Leao gives you that focus to worry on. So I think, it was a strange one from Pioli, but as you said, his form has been terrible, and Pioli has to tell him, you're not undroppable, mate. I think it's a really interesting power play that's going on there, and it'll be, I think we know who's going to win, but it'll be interesting to watch play out. But we do need to move on from the Milan derby.
Yes.
Auguri Inter, incredible win for them. Dispiace, Milan, unlucky, better luck next time. But we do need to move on to, and just very quickly, because Napoli did it very quickly. Jesus Christ. I looked at the phone. I think the first 45 minutes, I thought, Spezia have done really well here.
They did.
Defended really well. Keeping Napoli at bay. They didn't have any chances, maybe one or two. I think Agudelo maybe had a chance.
Yes.
But I thought that is exactly what Spezia need to do. Just keep doing this and you'll get a point. That's the dog. Within 2 minutes of the second half kicking off, they'd given away a penalty. And then I was looking at my phone because I was out for this game. I managed to watch the first half, missed the second half. I was on my phone. I was like, I need Osimhen to win for the Fantacalcio. I kept checking my phone. He's not scored. Next time I checked my phone, Osimhen 2. I was like, Jesus Christ. He does it quickly. Napoli do it quickly. And I think they're just like that great boxer. Just bang, bang, out.
Yes.
It was an incredibly ruthless performance, right?
It was. Obviously, first one was the penalty decision. And obviously, Kvara steps up to score that one. But then Osimhen... First one, very good. Second one, just gifted by Dragowski. Got no idea what he was doing because the defender's like there with him. And I appreciate he probably thought he'd get like a punch to it, but it was nowhere near it. So unfortunately, it's just terrible decision making by him. And on Spezia, they did look really threatening. Agudelo, as you say, I really liked his performance. I thought he looks incredible. And I was looking at his stats this season. He does look like a player that could do a job at a top sides like Milan or, for example, Inter. I could see him fitting in really nicely. He's a player that likes to take the ball, takes his shots on goal. Shmorodov as well, unlucky, I think. He had a few half chances, but it was more the layoffs. I think that was the intelligent play that allowed Agudelo to kind of move on with the ball as well. So maybe there is a faint glimmer of hope with Spezia, and I think it's helped by the fact that earlier today, we saw Hellas Verona draw only 1-1. If they'd won that, then you were talking a 3-point difference then, and that could make a huge bit of difference. But Rory, I was looking at this last night, and Napoli, obviously, they've got 51 points left to play. They could basically see up the title, providing there's still this 13-point gap. They could make sure this title is confirmed by the time they play Udinese in the first week of May. So that would be at least still 8 games to go. They could potentially, let's say, hypothetically, continue to lose matches and they are still second. They could even win it even earlier against Juventus 2 weeks earlier, potentially.
We need that storyline. I'll take that storyline, please. I'll take that one. Yes,
that would be incredible.
Fantastic. The first goal for Osimhen, how high he jumps and how long he hangs in the air is unbelievable. The only other player I've seen do that is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes.
Where it seems like he's floating in midair for a second. Because I thought, they're showing it in slow motion. I was like, he's just floating in midair. And he jumps so high. I thought that was genuinely and it was a simple header. But as athleticism goes, that's one of the most impressive goals I've ever seen. Just the sheer strength to jump that high and hang at that long. It blew my mind. I think Kvara, I want to thank Kvara personally because his generosity has meant that I've won Fantacalcio this week because he definitely could have had that goal for himself. But I feel like there was a really... this game showed how scouting is getting better because I think it must be a Georgian and an Uzbeki on the pitch in a major European league. That's definitely not happened before. I don't think that's happened before. I think Shomorodov did have his moments. He had a few when Spezia had moments. He was involved.
Exactly.
He's a player that he didn't really work out at Roma, but when he was at Genoa before that, was it Cagliari? It was Genoa, right? I thought he had a few decent goals. I was excited for him about going to Roma. I think maybe this change of scenery could be good for him. But Napoli just unbelievable. They never really looked in danger, and 3-0. They looked like those teams, like a City, not now, but like a City where they just effortlessly batter teams, and you're like, 3-0's now the new 1-0. It's insane.
Exactly.
So they did go 16 points clear until in one. They are on pace to break the Serie A points record. They're on pace to hit 100 points. No one's ever done that. it's going to be a special season for Napoli no matter what it looks like, but it could be even specialer. And they've still got the Champions League coming up. And I'm telling you, I am putting a cheeky bit of money on them because nobody wants to go and play in Naples. Nobody wants to go and play in Naples. Not a chance. But we do need to move on from there. Adam, which game in Serie A are we going to next?
Let's go to Roma, and they took on Empoli, 1-2-0 within 6 minutes, pretty much. Rory, it was, they should have just told the Roma crowd to go home. But the reason why I picked this one was because of the viral that went out after this game, and this was Empoli's goalkeeper, Vicario, who made an incredible double/treble save. If you look at it, technically it was treble save. And this guy could have been signed by Bayern Munich in the January transfer window, which I did not know about until it got announced during this game. But incredible performance by Roma. They looked professional. Dybala set up Abraham's. He could have had a hat trick of headers, believe it or not, in this match. So Abraham looks like he's getting that confidence back. I don't know about you. Roma seem like they're a team that's now getting a bit more confidence. I appreciate they haven't necessarily had the results this season, but you saw against that performance against Napoli, they can put it on. I don't know what you make of the Roma team. I know they're very indifferent when it comes to the league as well, but it seems like Mourinho may be prioritizing the league. How do you see it?
I think they're having to prioritize the league now. I think honestly, they really wanted the Coppa Italia. They really wanted the Coppa Italia, and I think they were fuming that they let themselves go out against Cremonese, or that Cremonese beat them. I think they're and Roma fans as well were like, this was ours. It was opening. I think they said it on the Goal Show last night. It was opening up. Fiorentina, they would have got in the next round. They'd kind of had a fairly easy run so far, and it was this is the year to do it. They've not won it since Totti was playing. It's a real time for them to do it, and I feel like it's a missed opportunity. But now the positives are they can focus on Serie A, and with the top four gap and the top four race looking so tight, it's going to come down to fine margins. It's going to come down to performances like this. I was going to watch this game, right? I was like, all right, okay. BT Sport do a really annoying thing where you can't watch the first 15 minutes of games. It's really, really irritating. But I didn't bother watching it because it was 2-0 within 6 minutes, and I was like, oh, well, game over. But I have seen the highlights. I thought Tammy Abraham getting goals again is very good, but it does feel like Roma are they were wobbling a bit, but I think that Milan draw that felt like a win.
Yes.
I think that was a really galvanizing moment for them, and they realized we've got more than this. We can be doing better than we are. And it's good. I support Roma. It's good to see him doing well. I like it. I thought Pellegrini, he gets a lot of shit from Roma fans, but he's still been one of their outstanding players.
I don't understand the best player.
I don't understand why Roma fans are angry with him. He's been incredible. But Vicario, you're right. Guess who has him in Fantacalcio? This guy,
Rory?
He is one of the he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the last couple of years in Serie A. He's another player. We've talked about the production line at Empoli. He's another one that's going to get sold on for big money. And I was surprised when I heard that Bayern Munich had been in for him, but then I was like, oh, that kind of makes perfect sense, actually. He's been Empoli are a team that, they're always going to not struggle, but they're mid-table. They're going to concede a lot of goals. They're not going to be tight at the back, really.
Exactly.
But without him, it would be a lot worse, and they'd be in a lot more trouble. And he's only 26 years old. I think he's a keeper that I've been really impressed with. And if you've not seen the triple save that he makes, it's mind-bending how he does it. It's incredible. So I think this is a keeper that you should be keeping an eye out on and thinking who is going to get him next. Because I think it's interesting because Inter have just got Onana. They've got their keeper, right? Yes. Milan have got Maignan. Are Juve going to come sniff in? They need a new keeper. We could see him at Juventus. I don't see any of the other bigger teams having an immediate need for a goalkeeper. Maybe Roma. I don't Patrizio hasn't been great. Maybe Roma, but I think we could see him move on soon. Sorry, Empoli, we're selling your best players again. But I think for Empoli, just one of those days, when you can see two so early away, it's kind of very difficult after that, isn't it? But exactly. They will still be absolutely fine this season. We still love you, Empoli. You've been great to watch. You are great to watch.
Before we leave this particular game, Baldanzi, who obviously scored against Inter, his ceiling seems to be growing every game I see him. He had a few moments in this match. How far do you reckon this kid could go, Rory?
I think he's another player that people are getting very, very excited about. He's only 19 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
He's already got 4 goals this season, and he's like really starting to kick on in that kind of number 10 attacking midfield role. I think he's a very exciting, creative player that, again, the other bigger teams are going to be looking at. But I think this guy's got like future Italian international written all over him, I think. So, and Empoli's the best place for him to be, really. Just keep getting those minutes, keep playing, and become a key player for that team. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, really glad you shouted him out. I've been enjoying him a lot as well. And of course, Marin, because my guy, he's been sick.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, Roma win 2-0 in that one. Elsewhere, I think we need to talk about Adam, you predicted goals. So, of course, it was a 1-0. Atalanta finally draw a blank. You jinxed them. They finally, like 30 goals in 2 games, and now they can't score. And there was red cards all over the place. What happened here, Adam?
Yes, I think it was just a case of Sassuolo were the brighter team to begin with. Even before the major incidents happened, Berardi looks very dangerous, and maybe it's just off the confidence of that win against Milan a few weeks ago. Certainly, they seemed more fired up. I did even say Sassuolo didn't have a particularly great window. Well, again, they proved me wrong in that stake by proving they have got players there that can do it. Llorente, who could we forget about him? I mean, fantastic shot. Was from distance as well, like well placed. Atalanta looks a shadow of their usual selves. As you rightly say, there was red cards here as well. So Mella made a dangerous kind of lunge, it has to be said, probably missed times, but yeah, unfortunately studs were showing for that particular challenge. It didn't look it at the very time, but the ref went to VAR and obviously red card came out. And then obviously we were talking offline about this, Rory. Muriel, I don't know what he said. He clearly said something about the referee's wife or something like that, but yeah, he got sent off just for saying something clearly. And yeah, that pretty much sewed up the match, and the Nero Verdi continue to surprise us, I suppose, because they're a team that I thought might struggle this second half of the season, but with results like this, they're pulling themselves out.
They were struggling, but now they're unbeaten in their last 3. So they've drawn 1, won 2, of course, including that incredible win against Milan. They've properly pulled themselves out of trouble, because we were talking about it, saying they're going to get sucked in. They are now 7 points above Verona in 18th. And yeah, they're looking like they're only going one way. Lauriente is a player that I've really been impressed by. Another great find from them. They brought him from Lorient, and he was kind of a team that are now pushing for Europe in France, right? Like, they're a team that have a lot of very young, exciting attacking players, and they got him. And I think it's just an incredible signing for them. He's been really, really good. My mate told me to pick him up in Fantacalcio, and I didn't, and now he's non-stop scoring. It's really, really frustrating. But it's great to see, because we were worried about Sassuolo and their attacking threat, like with Borga going and kind of them not really replacing him. I was kind of, and like Raspadori and Scamacca, and you're like, Jesus Christ, you've lost guys, you need to do something.
But it's going to be Fratesi next.
Yeah, it won't be long. It will not be long. I think it's taken him the first half of the season, but he's found his place, he's got his form, and he's starting to kill it in Serie A. So great to see him doing really well. Love that. Huge win for them. Atalanta, this is the unpredictable Atalanta we know and love, right? You never literally
never boring moment.
I just need to say, Sampdoria have just gone 2-1 up. Manolo Gabbiadini brace. What timeline are we living on? He scored in the 12th and 58th minute. Patania, my guy, scoring for Monza, but Sampdoria are currently winning 2-1, which in the table, it doesn't really do much, but it does mean that they would be 4 points ahead of Cremonese, and they'd be 2 points behind Verona. So maybe, I don't know.
Well, if they manage to win this, that's quite good, because they've got Inter next. So, do you know if they probably could do with the points ahead of that fixture?
Yeah, get them now. Get them now. You need them now. But yeah, 2-1 as we speak. That one. Last game in Italy that we're going to cover, maybe. We want to talk about Orsolini. Fiorentina 1, Bologna 2.
Of course, yeah. So he's been on incredible form recently. He did score from the penalty spot in this match, but I did mention a few weeks ago, he was a player on form, again, setting up. Also, Posh for the header. Posh, an Austrian, by the way, scored something like, I think it's 4 goals so far for Bologna, but 2 have come in the last 3 weeks. So he's on a rich vein of form. So very good. Fiorentina unlucky. Saponara scoring the goal. He could have had another one, came off the crossbar. One name that I have to mention, though, for Fiorentina, that looks good. He could be a player that moves on, potentially Gonzalez, the left-sided winger. He looks fired up at the moment. It might take a bit of a bid to tempt Fiorentina to sell him, but he looks incredible at the moment. He scored a goal against Lazio the other week. The previous week, I can't remember who they faced, but again, he was fantastic in that particular match. He looks incredible. So Fiorentina, if you're looking for players at the moment, Gonzalez, there's Amrabat, obviously. I think that they could be a team, potentially, Rory. We always say this about Fiorentina. They're shaping up to be someone that might challenge next season. They just always do this, though.
They always do it. I think we're going to be saying this every year. Fiorentina, if they could just push, they would get there. I think this Conference League campaign really kicked their arse at the beginning of the season.
It did.
But they're just always so bloody close, always so close. And for people confused, Orsolini in Italian means little bears, which is quite nice. So Mr. Little Bears, beautiful. And very, very finally, Lecce won 2-0. Baschedotto flexing his muscles. That guy's absolutely ripped. I did not realize how big that guy is. And Stafezza scores another banger. He's had quite a few screamers this season. As Cremonese's hunt for a win continues. Every week, we're going to keep you up to date just on what they do until they win, because they need to get one. Come on, Cremonese. For Vialli, do it. Come on, just get one win.
I know.
Nice. So, guys, I think that's Serie A for now. Adam, anything else before we leave these people for a tiny bit?
I think just to say, Bacheletto, he's a player that's got an interesting pastime. He likes to work on his farm, believe it or not. So during his, apparently, I saw this on James Horncastle. He was saying that apparently after he does training, he goes to his farm and does farming. Wow. So he's an interesting character. Don't think we'll see him in Milan anytime soon, unfortunately, because it's a bit of a trek to go down to see his farm down at Lecce, probably. But incredible individual. He seems like he's well up for it. So I'd love to see him at a bigger club, though. One day.
Yeah. I kind of love that life. Professional footballer / farmer. That's where you get the physique. Jesus Christ. That is like functional strength. That is functional strength. But we're not going to continue going on about how big his muscles are, I promise. We are going to go for a break. And after this, we're going to be talking Premier League. And yes, I will talk about Arsenal losing, I promise, but not before we have a bit of fun. So we will see you after this break, guys. I need to find the thing. I need to get used to this. Here's the transition so we can go to the break. And hello, welcome to the Premier League review. And well, it's been a busy day. It's been a busy day, but it has been a terrible weekend for City, as not only do they lose 1-0 to Spurs and continue their run of not scoring at the toilet bowl, they then have news break that finally their chickens are coming home to roost. It has been released that they have broken over 100 rules in terms of their financial fair play, in terms of declaring what money comes in, what money goes out, how much they paid Roberto Mancini. There is all sorts coming out. I saw a story on Football Italia, I think it is, saying that apparently he secretly agreed to get paid double what they declared they were paying him. It is delicious. We've known that this was coming for City. I think the second they dared to say that they made more money than Real Madrid and Manchester United, people were like, hold on a minute. I don't know if you're commercially more successful than the two biggest clubs in the world. Let's think about that. I think they've overplayed their hand. What I worry about is how sturdy this case is, because they are going to have the best lawyers in the world. But what I think is that as the Premier League have taken 4 years to build this case, that hopefully their case is pretty watertight. Now, the interesting thing, Adam, before I go to you, is also they are unable to appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sport because it's within the Premier League rules. I don't know why, but they can't. So whatever the Premier League decision is kind of final. I think they can appeal, but it'll just go to another independent panel. And this is kind of where I expect it to go. It's going to be appealing for the next 10 years while they continue to break the rules. And I think that is what we're going to see. But the punishments that we have seen kind of suggested include points deductions, fines, transfers, embargoes, relegations, expulsion from the league, anyone who has a blue top to be arrested. I think it's like it goes kind of as extreme as they want it to. But it's quite interesting. Adam, I kind of put the question on Twitter today, but what do you hope happens and what do you expect to happen? I suspect the answers might be very different.
I hope there's an example being made. And by that, I think we need to kind of make sure that the Premier League is being fair to the other clubs that have respectfully followed the rules. Whether that means a points deduction at the beginning of next season
this season.
It could be this season as well, right? But the problem is I think it depends on the extent, doesn't it? Because I was looking into it a bit more detail. So we're talking about the 2008 or 9 to 10 season. This was the season when Mark Hughes started and then got replaced by Mancini. And I was looking at their fees that they spent that season. So 108 million on players like Carlos Tevez, Adebayor, Roque Santa Cruz, if you remember that gem. Julian Lescott, to name a few players that they had at the time that they signed for that particular season. And then, ironically, it's also the 2017 and 18 season where a certain Pep Guardiola was in charge. So this is where it gets fascinating because Pep did say that if he found that the club had lied to him, he would instantly leave them at a heartbeat. So I don't know what to make of it from a City perspective. It could be bullshit anyway because he gets paid lots of money anyway. So anyhow,
who do you think you're signing a contract with, mate?
Exactly.
They've not made their money from helping blind kids, if you know what I mean. Freaking out. Yeah.
But back to City. I think realistically, it will be a points deduction and a huge fine. It's got to be one of those. And it depends on what extent they go to. It'd be nice to see something like a minus 15 points deduction for the next season. Or if you want it for your benefit, Roy, then this season, which would certainly make it a lot easier for you. Certainly.
Oh, God. I could take a pretty big sigh of relief, but then it'd be United and it's a whole other psychological thing going on.
Exactly. But what about you? What do you think is realistically going to happen here?
As I said, I think it's going to be a long, old process of appeals and lawyering and appeals. And I think it's going to be like the Premier League might find out that they're not as powerful as they think they are. I think it's going to be quite underwhelming. What it kind of annoys me is that a lot of the top 6 clubs have played the rules, and a lot of all the other Premier League clubs have played by the rules. Like, from an Arsenal perspective, we were shite for years because Wenger refused to break FFP rules, and he kept saying, other clubs are doing this, but I'm not doing it. We are playing by the rules. You need to make sure other people play by the rules. I think United have done it. Liverpool have done it to the point where look where they are now. Yeah. Like, there are clubs that are actively
Spurs have done it for decades, mate.
Yeah. Like, actually, before they even there's clubs actively trying to follow the rules and still being very, very good, right? And it shows this arrogance from the owners of not only have we got the most money, we're just going to break the rules flagrantly because fuck you, like what are you going to do about it? And I think we've all known this about City for years, all these made-up sponsors that have got an address and, that's kind of my brother.
Took over the stadium as well. Yeah.
Like, and it's all just, they paid 10 million because it's the official, like, drinks coaster company in Thailand or whatever, if you know what I mean. And it's just all this fake money pouring through the door. And like, what I've really enjoyed is Man City fans acting like the victim and be like, they've been waiting for an excuse to get us, aren't they? Like, it's taken 4 years. What are you talking about? It's taken 4 years for them to say, I think we have a case. It's not like they're just trumped up charges. Like, you've known you've been breaking the rules. We've known you've been breaking the rules. It's just hopefully you're going to get the consequences are going to face it. And if Guardiola is a man of his word, now I have certain feelings about when Guardiola expresses his words and when he doesn't and how much he means them. But
yes, exactly.
He could leave. I don't think he will. I think he knew full well what we're going to get is press conferences of I don't deal with that. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
My job is to make the team play well on a Saturday. My job is on the training pitch. That's what we're going to get. But it will be interesting to see what happens. I think it's a really big moment for the Premier League because, as you said, they have to show strength now. They have to show strength. And I think Todd Bowley might be paying very close attention to this story.
Yes. Keeping
because
an eye, certainly.
This isn't going to be the first one. Last one, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think Newcastle, again, their owners have been very bloody clever and they've played by the rules because they knew that if they even put a toe out of line, that the Premier League was going to go at them straight away. But they've played by the rules. They've been sensible. They've done what they needed to do. And I think City, just when they came in, as you said, when they came in with that money, when they first came in, and even now it continues, they've just been breaking the rules. So I really hope they get what they deserve. I think it will be, if anything does happen, it will be next season. I think relegation would be quite funny, but I can't see it happening.
No,
I think it would be a points deduction and maybe a transfer embargo. It'll be like, I think Tom, friend of the show, said transfer embargo for 3 years, which will then be reduced to 1. And I think it'll be something like that. But big weekend for City fans, but bigger weekend for Spurs fans as they are stuck in the quandary of beating Man City but helping Arsenal. And I did see a lot of Spurs fans on Twitter being like, God damn it, I'm glad we won that, am I? And there was a lot of, like, honestly, I've never been so nervous checking a Spurs result, just being like, come on, you useless bastards, hold on. After they went 2-0 up last time and threw it away, I was worried. But, Adam, what is this record that City have against Spurs, and why did Guardiola not play Kane for Kevin De Bruyne? I don't understand.
It's a bizarre one, isn't it? In terms of records, they haven't won for, I think it was the last season or before Aguero decided to retire. So if you remember that far back, so it's been a while. But yeah, in terms of the way Man City set out, I don't think necessarily it was a bad squad. You know, they still had quality on there, but they seem to be really persistent on the style, which I think is really hurting them. At the moment, they can't get Haaland into the match. It was kind of shown in terms of the analysis that there's a few times Haaland's just waiting to run onto a long ball, but they don't play like that. They do not do a direct ball to him or into that space, into the channels. And that's probably where Spurs could have been exploited, especially with that back line. But you have to give it its due, Rory. I mean, Spurs looked a different side to what we've seen recently. They seemed quite solid. They were kind of pressing the front lines. I've never seen Son as good as he has been this season. That was probably one of his better games.
He's had a really bad season, but that was a good performance.
Yeah, Højbjerg had a fantastic match. Eric Dyer, I'm not his biggest fan, but again, he was his kind of force in terms of the pressure that created that goal. So yeah, it turned out to be an easy victory. It felt like at times. I appreciate there was moments where Man City had the opportunities, like Mahrez hitting the crossbar. But I never felt like at any time Man City kind of threatened enough to kind of cause Tottenham any troubles. You know, like we've been crying out, just get the ball towards Lloris and you might cause some issues. And it never happens. And it feels like Man City are a bit lost at the moment. They don't know how to play. They're not a side that are used to having a striker. It does feel like that at the moment.
It's such a loaded phrase, the way people are putting it. Like, has Haaland made City worse? It's such a loaded phrase. It's really annoying because the guy is like got 25 goals.
Yeah.
What it is they are adjusting to how they have to play with him.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's what it is. They're having to change they're having to change their style. It takes time. I thought City would pick it up quicker than this. I'll be honest. I do still think their defense is crazy. Like, when you look at their defense, you're like, that is not a strong
it's
defense.
not.
I don't know if I take any of their defenders over what Arsenal have got in defence. I think maybe I don't know. Really, I don't know if
I think Akanji's had a very good season.
He's been a lot better than I
considering
thought.
the circumstances. Yeah, because
He's
we
been a lot
saw
better
how
than I
poor he
thought.
was at Dortmund, and
Yeah.
he wasn't a player that I'd necessarily go, yeah, bring him in. He'll reinforce your defense. But like you say, like I feel like they need transitioning in terms of their defense as well, because when Laporte comes in, I don't feel necessarily like he's solid enough. Like, and it sounds weird, but I think they're missing Diaz. They're missing Diaz in the middle of the park.
Diaz has been off it for a bit as well, and you're like, I know he's had injuries and he's been like, and I just think I was looking at the defense when we played him in the FA Cup, and I know we didn't score, so probably their defense was good. But like, I was looking and I was like, I don't know, I'm taking our defenders over them, and I think Nathan Ake's been outstanding at left back, but he's not a left back.
No,
like they've just let Cancelo go in this weird. I understand if he's like saying he's bigger than the club, etc. You need to move him on, but him next to Kevin De Bruyne, he was your biggest creative threat. Like maybe sometimes you just got to go, look, you're gone in the summer, but like if you know what I mean, like I'll get you your move in the summer. Just keep your head down until now, because they're lacking that creativity now, and we saw it yesterday. Like, and then when you don't start Kevin De Bruyne, where's that creativity coming from? Jack Grealish is a great player, but he doesn't hit big numbers in goals and assists. He says that himself. That's not his job. That's not why they bought him. Like Bernardo Silva's been off the boil and kind of played in a few different positions. His head is turned at the slightest look from Barcelona. It seems like every transfer window, it's like Bernardo Silva's going. So I think where is this creative spark for them? And I think Spurs just handled it incredibly well. I also had to say Emerson Royale, thank you. Just thank you. I thought you were absolute pony, and he's just put in an unbelievable performance against City. Man of the match, completely shut down that wing. Unbelievable performance. I think what we saw, and Arsenal had the same thing, teams like this still have mental, psychological weaknesses. Arsenal haven't won at Goodison Park for fucking ages, and City haven't won at the Spurs Stadium. You can see that it's just like sometimes it's all up here. It's
grating on them.
Here. So City kind of bottle it. Spurs don't, and it made what was a crap weekend quite a good weekend. I was like, I'll take that. If this is our first loss since September, but then City lose as well, cool.
Yeah.
I can take that all day. That's absolutely fine. Moving on to the next one. But yeah, we will keep an eye on City. Joe Spagnoli, friend of the show, how we doing, mate? Jumps in with watches the Premier League, makes a half-hearted example of City at home, but does everything in their power to protect their asset in Europe. Corruption breeds corruption. I think you're pretty spot on there. They will still want that presence overseas. They don't want the Premier League brand being denigrated, do they? They cannot afford that. But we're going to move on in the Premier League. We're going to leave City there. And the story that we do need to talk about, I'm going to talk about it if I can find him. Dyche is back in the most Dyche performance ever, as Dwight McNeil, Tarkowski, and any other ex-players of his stand out massively for Everton as they finally show a bit of bollocks and they run about and do a job. And
they do.
Not Andre Onana, he's the one who plays for Inter.
Andre Ayew.
Onana for Everton. I can't remember his first name now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable performance.
Yeah.
Who the frig is this guy? Box to box, all over the place, breaking tackles, running with the ball, creating problems. I was like, Christ, there is a player there.
Yes.
Like when we Sasha Tavolieri in the pre-World Cup for Belgium, he was talking about he's a player that you need to keep an eye on. He's the next big player for Belgium. He was unbelievable at the weekend. Cody and Tarkowski, can you imagine a better centre-back partnership for Dyche? Like he's absolutely Iwobi had a great game. I think him being in that number 8 midfield role, I didn't see it, but on and off, he's been pretty good for Everton. I think Everton fans in general would say he's been one of their better players over the last few years. If Dyche can get him back to like his best, I think he's a great player. I think Everton just fully deserved the win. Like no complaints. They just deserved the win. Like they did. Like Arsenal just, I think I said to you off mic, after we didn't score after about 20 minutes, I think the players were just like, we've been here before and it's just not happening. We need to get better at breaking down low blocks, and that 4-5-1, we just need to get better at it. We weren't moving the ball quickly enough. We weren't being decisive enough. And Nketiah snatched at a few shots. Erdegaard was completely
sliced.
Erdegaard was completely marked out of the game. I think Dyche has kind of shown a blueprint there of how to beat Arsenal, or at least how to get something against Arsenal. And Arteta needs to go back now and go, right, what do we need to do about this? Because this is what Brentford are going to do now. This is what every team below us are just going to turn up and do that. And I think that is a concern. But I don't want to talk about Arsenal too much. It's still 5 points clear. It's fine. But Everton, outstanding. And like, this is exactly what we expected from Dyche, right?
Yeah, we did. And I feel he kind of brought it back to basics with Everton. Just made sure that they were tight, compact, but when they did counter-attack, they made sure that they got balls into the box, which was interesting because I don't know about you, but there was a lot of aerial shots around how they played, and Arsenal seemed very narrow for some strange reason. They were very narrow, so they're almost very compact in the middle, but on the wings, they had nothing to offer. And I think that almost kind of spells how the game was going to go, because they realized that there was an opportunity essentially going down those wings, cutting in the ball a few times, crossing it. And like I said to you offline as well, the likes of Calvert-Lewin just seemed to be, if he was on form, would have taken at least 2 of those opportunities. And Arsenal's defenders were all over the place. They were shaky. They didn't know what to do. Like you say, in the middle of the park, they seem a bit lost. Odegaard lost it a good few times, but they clearly kind of made it a point of targeting him to make sure he didn't have any time on the ball. And that was incredible. But I think almost Arteta was found out as well there. I think he maybe misread it and thought he could just outplay Everton on that occasion. Almost feel like maybe he should have gone a bit more defensive in that midfield. Potentially, got someone a bit more experienced to maybe soak it up for at least the 60, 70 minutes and then bring off someone like an Odegaard to change it up potentially. That would have maybe frustrated Everton a bit more. But like you say, off day for Nketiah. Saka, I think he tried, but he couldn't really get into the game at times.
I know I'm such a Saka apologist, but he still had like 5 key passes and 3 chances created, and that wasn't a great performance from him.
No.
Like the whole game, I was like, he needs to get in this game. He needs to get in this game, and it was the same. Sorry, against City in the FA Cup as well. I was like, Saka's being incredibly quiet, but even when he's quiet, he does do things. But I think it was a very, very quiet performance from him. Mykolenko was unbelievable. I really like him as a player, Mykolenko. I think when he first came into Everton, I was like, there is something about that lad, and I think he's been part of a completely chaotic defense, but the way he runs up and down that left wing, his defensively defensively he's solid, he's very good, and I think he's just a very, very good wing back. I really like him, and he was fantastic against Saka the whole day. I think with the wings at Arsenal, it's interesting because we've been praised for Zinchenko cutting in and making that 4-man midfield. Sorry, but what we saw was Saka gets supported by Ben White, but Martinelli gets supported by no one because Zinchenko doesn't do that role. So if Zinchenko isn't able to overlap, it's Martinelli on his own. And Martinelli was really quiet as well. He had a few moments where he got past Coleman or he managed to cut inside and make a few chances. But I think what we need is Zinchenko to also be doing the other bit. And I think if he's cutting in too much, it leaves that whole left wing open. And
so
I think
was that a game for Tierney, for example? Was that a better
I think it could have been.
Yeah.
I think it could have been, and maybe this is where Arteta again. And I know, like Jesus, I never thought I'd be saying this. A year supporting Arsenal, I was sick of not knowing what the team was going to be, and now we know exactly what the team's going to be, and I love that.
Yeah.
But I also think that maybe there are games where you go, okay, Zinchenko is good for this game, Tierney's good for this game. I think Tierney is still an outstanding left back, defensively great. He hasn't got he's not as technically good as Zinchenko, but I think in a game like that where he can just overlap with Martinelli or support Martinelli a bit more, it could have given us a different dimension. But just an off day for Arsenal. Honestly, I think Twitter was always going to be reactionary, and it's our first loss since September the 25th. Like, I prayed for days like this. Like, I'm absolutely fine. Like, it's fine. We'll take it. Brentford at home next. Just got to make sure we win the next one. That's all. Just got to make sure we win the next one.
Exactly.
But no real complaints. For Dyche, I was actually happy to see him do well. I was really like, as much as it was against Arsenal, I was like, yes, good, mate. I hope you kind of show that you can play other football as well. Because that team, there's a lot of footballers in that team, and you could really start playing some nice stuff there. And I hope I hope they do it. I do hope they do it. And I think that appointment could keep them up and could save Moshiri's life, really. I think that appointment does keep him up. But while he joins Everton, we're looking at two other clubs who should have appointed him. As Nathan Jones sets his career on fire and Jesse Marsch is already back on the red-eye flight back to the US of A. Let's start with Nathan Jones. Are Southampton doomed? What was that press conference about?
It sounded like a very much a David Brent-esque kind of like conference where he kind of lauded himself up as being the best coach in Europe, I think was the way he phrased it. So just to kind of pull out the paragraph in particular, I've been very successful playing a fluent style. Luton were a real aggressive front-footed side. Statistically, there weren't many better than me around in Europe in terms of aggressiveness, clean sheets, defending the box, balls in the box, XG, all those sort of things. I was just a bit complexed by those kind of mannerisms. As we spoke offline, Rory, there has been rumours of the players not necessarily digging into him. Nathan Jones has got a habit of being a bit arrogant. He did it when he was at Luton. I remember the days when Wickham played against him and he said Wickham were just a bunch of cheats that didn't know how to play football. And he doesn't take defeat very kindly, shall we say.
Graciously,
yeah, exactly. And he has got this side to him. Unfortunately, maybe this level, and as was found out with Stoke, maybe there's a certain style of club that he just doesn't really understand the ethos. And maybe he only works in Bedfordshire, in Luton, to be fair. Maybe that's the only place he works because he hasn't really proved it anywhere else at the moment in time. But it did seem like a bit of a weird appointment. I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt last week's pod. I think I felt like maybe if there's a manager that goes down, he's got potential to bring them up. But now it just sounds like the players aren't on sides. There could be even more worse defeats. And I spoke to you, Rory. James Ward-Prowse kind of said, normally in a Southampton team, there's always a few ex-pros or pros with you that are experienced, that know how to pull themselves out of this kind of circumstance. At this moment in time, he reflected, there aren't there at the club. So this doesn't look like there's going to be fun times ahead for Southampton at this moment in time. So that I think we can safely say they are going to be down and out of this Premier League this season.
Yeah, well, it's really damning, isn't it? I think some of the quotes where he said there's certain players that need to be played because they're at the club and like suggesting that they're the problem, not him, and he's had to sacrifice his beliefs and had to kind of compromise and just a little bit like, oh, you're done if you're saying this because you're throwing your players under the bus massively. There's no way you say that and expect your job to be safe on Monday. Very, very strange comments. The thing is, for Luton Town, now I know Rob Edwards, formerly of Forest Green, I want to say
as well.
He is doing very well at Luton. They are currently fourth in the championship, and I know he's only had 11 games, but they are currently averaging 2.09 points per game, whereas Nathan Jones averaged 1.49. Now, again, that's a very small kind of sample space, but Rob Edwards is doing a very good job at Luton and keeping them in the championship as well. So maybe it wasn't, not even keeping them in the championship, pushing them to the Premier League. So maybe it wasn't all down to Nathan and it could have been the squad as well. So yeah, interesting to see. Honestly, Nathan Jones, we hardly knew ye. You're going to be gone before I even realised you were here, really, which is a bit mad. And I think this appointment has cost Southampton their place in the Premier League. And as I saw the post, I saw like Southampton on Twitter, they posted something, and I thought, oh, I best check the replies. And all the replies were just Jones out, Jones out, Jones out. The same picture,
they
just
hate
absolutely
him.
Spammed. I was like, wow, yeah, the fans fucking despise you, mate. You have done so well to make people hate you that quickly. And it'll be interesting to see where he gets a job next, because that is not a good audition for anywhere, really.
No.
But managers who are leaving, but I quite liked this one. The second Leeds fans started calling him Yank Lampard, I think it was definitely done.
Game over.
Some fantastic grown men scenes outside the City ground as the Leeds fans started fucking trying to kick off on the Forest fans. Really pathetic stuff. Quite funny to watch. Jesse Marsch, he's gone. I find this really odd. Now, I know that his record hadn't been very good at Leeds, right? They are kind of bang in trouble. They're currently, on level points with Everton in 18th. Everton very much looking like they're on the rise. Leeds maybe not. But Leeds definitely took a massive lean towards the Red Bull Leipzig, the Red Bull style.
The model,
right?
Yeah.
They took a huge lean towards it. All the signings were very Red Bull signings.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, right. They've got, they're just going to become Red Bull Leeds, but they can't be called Red Bull Leeds because there will be a riot in West Yorkshire.
Yeah, of course it would be.
It would be like, that's the kind of, okay, that's what they're doing. Apparently not. They've sacked him. Do you think he was harshly treated, or do you think he deserved it?
On reflection, I think he was harshly treated to an extent in terms of I don't think he necessarily got the love from the Leeds faithful. Mm-hmm. I think they kind of saw him trying to impose his style and maybe not necessarily giving it a chance. But that said, I think there were already signs to say that the performances have been great. Mm-hmm. He's persistent on a certain style that wasn't winning them games. There seems to be still a bit of love for Bielsa, and I did allude to this. I think they've still got these side effects of they expect that man on the bucket to be on the sidelines, and he's not there at the moment. And I think they kind of would rather go down in that kind of style, it seems.
Well, they always said that. Every Leeds fan I ever saw were like, I would rather go down with Bielsa than stay up with anyone else.
Exactly, which means I feel like it's going to be hard for them, whoever goes in now, because
just get Bielsa back. Just get him back. Just bring him back.
He's going to say he wants the under-21 job, though, Rory. He's not going to want the first team job.
I'll coach the kids for 5 years and then I'll come back.
Exactly. But by all accounts, Rory, it does sound like his one of his coaches during his time, Carlos Corberán, who was formerly of Huddersfield Town, almost got them into Premier League, and he is doing it for West Bromwich Albion at this moment in time. And it seems like it's written in the stars for him to return to Ellen Road and potentially introduce a bit of Bielsa ball. But let's take that with a pinch of salt. Corberán is definitely the opposite of Bielsa ball. He's a lot more pragmatic. He will play a bit more defensively, and maybe the old 60s style Leeds will return with that style. However, I think he will get the best out of those players because I think Jesse Marsch, he's laid the foundations of a young, hard-working side, right? I think they're just lacking a bit of quality and maybe a bit of confidence. I mean, I don't know what you think, but they've got the quality, right? We've been talking about Noto. We've been talking about Weston McKennie, how that's a good signing for them, for example. Bamford's just come back from his bad injury, and he just needs a bit more game time to get that confidence. Again, I feel that there is something there, but they just need a few more additions. That's the problem. I don't think necessarily Marsch got those additions through the door.
I think what they need to do is settle the side. I think what they need to do is right, this is the squad we've got. Now, what do we do with them? Because it feels like there's a lot of ideas in that squad now. There's the hangover from Bielsa and the players that would die for that man and were very much drilled to one style of football. Yeah. And regardless whether you were 6-0 up or 6-0 down, that is what you do. And then they've got now this Red Bull influence. Philosophy, and I think now someone needs to look at that squad. They need a manager who can just look at the squad and go, right, what do these do well? Let's just do that. And then we can start figuring out from there. I just think it needs to settle for a bit and it needs to be a clear idea and use the players that you've got, because it feels like they've been bringing in players and selling players at quite a high rate at the minute. Leeds, it always feels like there's players leaving, players going, players leaving, players going. And I think They just need a pragmatic manager. So maybe Carlos Corberán is the kind of guy who's pragmatic and just be like, look, you're good at this. We're good at this. We're bad at that. So we're not doing that. We're good at this. So we're doing this. And I think that's kind of what they need. I would be interested to see if Corberán would leave. As you said, recently joined West Brom, doing incredibly well there. He's had 27 matches, won 15, drawn 5, lost 7. So doing pretty well. No, sorry. West Brom, 13 matches, won 10, lost 3. So a little bit feast or famine, but mostly feast. And they do currently find themselves up in 6th. So they're in the playoff spots. And they were a team that were worrying about going down. So he has made absolute performing miracles there. So incredible to see. I'd be gutted for West Brom fans if he jumped at the first opportunity. So I think maybe Leeds do need to look elsewhere a little bit. But again, I think he'd be a good addition for Leeds. It'll be interesting to see who they do get. As we said, both these clubs should have gone for Dyche. Why didn't they go for Dyche? We all said it. Everyone was saying it. Elsewhere in the Premier League, very quickly, because I do realize we're running over time quite a bit. I wanted to very quickly say Lopetegui at Wolves. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I said when he came in, I was like, I don't know if this guy's any good. People keep telling me he's good, but I've not seen anything to prove it. And now they're on 20 points. They're only 2 points ahead of the relegation zone, but they do seem to be getting a bit of form together. Battered Liverpool. Okay, it's Liverpool currently, but battered them. Ruben Neves claiming the Rashford celebration. It was mine, right? Beautiful to see. I think Lopetegui's gonna keep him up, right?
Yeah, I think there's a confidence there already. They've got over the effects of Bruno Lage, and certainly he seems to be instilling a bit more kind of nous about them, especially when it comes to games. I feel like they're a lot more confident about the way they're going about the games. The fact that he's getting a tune out of Adama Traore kind of tells its own story as well, because he was a player that was low on confidence, just come back from a loan spell at Barcelona where he thought it was going to be made into permanent. Never happened, obviously. I think he was on a bit of a downer. And I think that there's some promising signs for Wolves fans, just generally. I think they'll be safe. That's for certain. I think they are pretty much safe. I appreciate it's still too early to say that, but I feel like if they carry on with this kind of form going into the games, I think they'll pull themselves out of that kind of relegation battle. And then you could see them pushing on maybe next season, because you will probably say that they will get a few more additions into that squad in the summer, and then who knows what could be achieved. Maybe a push for the Euro spots, because I think I was saying this on Saturday. I feel Neves is a player that should be playing at a bigger club. And I suspect that if Wolves do struggle, then I could see him fitting in nicely for a top 6 club at this moment in time. He would not look out of place at Arsenal, Man United, etc. I could see him doing a hell of a job.
Liverpool could massively do with him. They should be throwing a lot of money at him. He's one of the best midfielders in the league, and you need midfielders. I think it really was a bit of a stark realization watching that performance against Liverpool. I was like, oh damn, you're watching what you need. Exactly. That's what you need right there. But yeah, incredible for Wolves. I like having them in the Premier League. I really like having them in the Premier League. So I'm happy that they're doing well. Again, I do want to also very quickly say, sorry, we completely went over Forest. Yes. we just kind of slagged off Southampton. Or Leeds even, sorry. They're now unbeaten in 5, 3 wins in their last 5. That contract extension for Steve Cooper looked mental when they were bottom of the league, but they knew exactly what they were doing. It's an incredible turnaround in form for them. He's definitely getting this squad together, definitely doing bits. And we have to say for Brentford as well, incredible 3-0 win against Southampton. Southampton, you still have to put those balls in. Brentford on their day can absolutely batter teams, and they battered Southampton. So I just wanted to give them their flowers, because I realized we just talked about those teams being terrible as if they didn't lose against somebody. And I think the last Premier League game, maybe penultimate, because I've just seen West Ham, that we're going to talk about is, and I'm kind of gutted that Andy isn't here, Casemiro is a fucking loose cannon. You never know he's an incredible player, right? Yes. Okay, fine, United fans. He's the best midfielder in the league, whatever. But he's been sent off twice already, and in quite short succession, and he could miss the Carabao Cup final now. because he grabbed someone around the throat with both hands. For someone who was meant to come in for the experience and the winner and, you know, the calm head and it's not really the vibes you want, is it?
No, it's not. There is a case to say, obviously, from a different angle, it doesn't look like he is actually strangling Will Hughes. However, you do not raise your hands in that manner, regardless. So, therefore, it's a sending off. Contrary to what Andy said on our WhatsApp group, which I was like completely baffled.
I was going to share the screenshot as well. You know, I was just going to put it on Twitter. Like, man,
I think we should just do it at the end of this like episode. I think. But yeah, for some reason he had it in his head that they should have just carried on and just called it handbags, basically. And it was just like, no, mate, you can't call it that. You can't, not when you raise it in that. Just crazy. But yeah, I can see the argument to say, well, if you look at it from a different angle, he's not actually doing it. However, just don't raise your arms like that then. He doesn't need to do that. Just push him in the bloody chest. Yeah. You don't need to go by his throat.
Like he should be more experienced than that. He should be more kind of smart and more clever than that. But you have to say, good win for United. It looked nervy at the end. Their second goal was a beautiful move. Really, Ten Hag doing absolute bits at United. They really are starting to look good again. God damn it. They are looking very, very good. Great for them to hang on. Patrick Vieira just cannot get any level of consistency at Palace. It really is just proper schizophrenic team. You just do not know what is going to happen.
I think they're crying out for investment, though, in that January transfer window. I saw a lot of Crystal Palace fans were not happy. Kurt, who's a good fan of the show, obviously,
my guy.
He was this kind of just saying, where's the investment? Where's the ambition? Why we're not spending money on players? And, you know, I'm sure they look at Lokonga and kind of go, yeah, he'll be a good midfielder, but he's not the answer of what their problems are at the moment for Palace. They need strikers. They need some to score goals at the moment. He's definitely not. He's not the answer. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Elsewhere in the Premier League, very quickly, I just want to give a quick shout out for Aguerd for West Ham. It's the first time I've properly watched him.
Yes.
And bloody hell, he was fantastic. Not only was it that great tackle on Callum Wilson towards the end of the game, I thought he was just outstanding. I thought just what a classy defender. Just really, like, you know, West Ham had an awful start to this game. They conceded one. It got called off for the ball going out of play.
Yeah.
Then they conceded straight away afterwards. Like, West Ham did not switch on. And I thought, oh, God, this could get ugly. This could get ugly.
Yeah.
But I think after that goal, West Ham were pretty much the better side. I think West Ham could have won the game. Newcastle definitely saw some chances. But I think West Ham were like kind of back to old West Ham a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're used to seeing from him. And I just wanted to say Aguerd was incredible. And Declan Rice absolutely ran this game. He just, in midfield, what a player he is. But Aguerd was just fantastic. So, yeah, wanted to give him his flowers. Did you catch any of this game?
I saw the highlights, so I can't say I watched the whole match. But again, it did look like at the end, West Ham had them on the ropes. Nick Pope, I seem to recall having to make a few saves as well to bail them out as well. But yeah, like you say, Aguerd, he's been doing that for past few matches. It has to be said. I've been watching Tom's timelines for the last few weeks, and it seems like he gets called out quite regularly. Yeah. So I think this isn't just a one-off. I think they've just been waiting for him to have a run in this team, and it certainly looks like potentially by the fact of Craig Dawson's been moved off to Wolves, which I missed completely.
Such a weird one, because Dawson was amazing for the West Ham, and I think West Ham fans were genuinely upset that he'd left. He was like one of the best signings in the last couple of years in the Premier League, honestly. For like they got him for free, and he was outstanding for him. But yeah, Aguerd just really, really impressed. So wanted to kind of give him a quick shout out. But I think that is all of the Premier League as I'm looking through now. Also, bloody hell, Leicester 4-2 away 4-2, to Villa. Absolutely massive. Harry Soto with an own goal on his Premier League debut. That's unfortunate. But
Tyrone Mings did make up for it by showing how to defend and letting Leicester forward just score past him. So yes, that was incredible to watch. How that guy has got England caps, I do not know. And a special word for Matoma. Matoma scores again for Brighton.
Just We bought our stocks early, Adam. No,
We did.
that we bought our stocks early. They are coming in.
He's
now.
in my
We
fantasy team. Bring in
he's
the
been
money.
Yeah, that's it every time. I'm like, Matoma, goal. My guy, yes, absolutely killing it. We got in there early. He is fantastic. But that is all the Premier League matches. Is there midweek action? I feel like there's FA Cup stuff. And what's the midweek action this week?
I have not looked, so I'm afraid we are that disorganized, aren't
I
we?
know it's been a long Monday, guys.
We have got tomorrow
as
Salernitana versus Juventus, and then Premier League action. As you do say, there is FA Cup replays as well, but FA Cup, or in the Premier League, should I say, Man United versus Leeds on Wednesday, which could be an interesting one for us to preview or review, should we say?
Yeah.
I can't see much other than that though, because
No,
Fulham
then
are
it's not
taking
until
on
Friday.
Sunderland. So yes, it is Friday, and that gives us perfect opportunity to preview, because we also see Milan taking on Torino. So that could be a tasty
that gap
match.
could get closer. That gap
could
get closer very, very quickly. It's going to be interesting, guys. We are going to leave it there. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Adam, anything to say before I send them off?
No, another great episode. Cannot wait to talk more on Thursday.
Beautiful. So, as always, guys, follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Follow us or subscribe on YouTube at the Anglo-Italian Pod. And we will, this is so not smooth, we will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.
See you later.